We're the voice of the audience, and even if we do have those pieces that keeps us trapped in this building, in this house, there's always somebody just saying, yo, why are we doing that? Don't do that. It's always that voice there. And yeah, hopefully it feels like the most honest horror film that you will see.
Kristen Maldonado here for Pop Culture Planet, and we are at the historic Apollo Theater for the premiere of The Blackening. Let's go chat with the cast. What an exciting last month for you. You had White Men Can't Jump, you got The Blackening. How does that feel to have all these movies coming out right now?
I won't know what to do with myself when I get a little bit of a break. I'm so used to traveling, being on a plane, and talking about another project. You know, it's a blessing. I just want it to continue.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, you're killing it. We love it. And I want to talk about this movie because I love a horror movie, especially, you know, a little bit of a satire. And, you know, this movie really tackles those tropes that we know about horror and about, you know, people of color and black people in horror. And so what can you tell us about that and what you guys are doing a little bit different?
You know, shout out, and I always say this, to the beautiful mind that is Dwayne Perkins, to the creative pen that is Tracy Oliver, for them wanting to create a story where we could actually do exactly what you did, which was debunk tropes, change the progression of culture and representation in film, and do it under the satire and the backdrop of horror and comedy. I think it's intelligent. I think it's on time, and I think it's something that is needed, and I know it's going to do more to not only just create platforms and lane for all of us in this film, but future filmmakers and creatives after us as well.
I love that. That's what it's all about, right? That representation.
One of our tasks was to take what people see as tropes, what they see as archetypes, and really imbue them with enough character and depth where we see them as real people. We see them as real people with real spirits, with real lives, with real stories to tell, so that the audience no longer is perceiving them as these one-trick ponies, but as fully realized people.
You know what's funny? The first time I saw Scream 2, Jada Pinkett and Omar Epps died, right? And after I noticed that as a kid, I was like, that didn't feel right. Something wrong with that. And there was just a continuous pattern of that, you know, those moments in horror movies. And so it became an ongoing joke. You watch Def Comedy Jam, most comedians would talk about, well, we always dying in the movies like that, you know? But to be a part of a movie like The Blackening that would take that trope and spin it and flip it on his head, it just means the world to be a part of something like that. You know what I mean? We don't get to be a part of a lot of black comedic horror satires. You know what I'm saying? That's really a lane built for another group, and I'm glad that I get to be a part of history.
Hopefully people of, our community feel seen and represented in a way that they haven't been in horror films before this one. And for everyone else, they get a chance to see an array of black folks. You know what I mean? Typically in these movies, there's only one of us, and you really don't get to see the nuances of that person and who he or she is and what makes them tick. And in this, we have 7, 8 different archetypes of, black people all in one movie, and you get a chance to know all of them.
I think it's really freeing because I think black people always kind of live in a horror comedy. We've experienced so much trauma, but then as a result, we find so much joy in it. So I feel like every day is a horror comedy for black people because I think we're sometimes tired yet resilient, because the alternative to that is just giving up, and I don't think we really are designed that way. So I think I'm so excited because I think black people will see an interactive experience. It'll be so freeing for us as a community to be able to come in a theater and see a movie that demands us to talk back, that demands us to yell and scream and exude joy, when other times when we're in theaters, be quiet, play small, the usher's coming. Not with this one. And I want to say this movie was made by us, but it is for everybody, 100%.
I rewatched the short film that you made to prepare for this. It was sort of my pre-gaming, if you will. And I gotta say, I think that's so incredible to be able to make something a couple years ago that now is being turned into a feature film. And was there anything that you were able to keep that you were oh, I need to bring this back for the movie, or other things that you were I need to change this? What can you tell us about that process?
Something that's very interesting is that we wanted to put the sketch in the film. So we expanded the film around the original premise of the sketch, so that you can see from the beginning to where we ended how it started. And then the rest of it was just us expanding and creating these characters to make them real, make them people that we care about, and then beefing up the plot. But the original sketch was 100% the blueprint for what we're showing tonight.
Do you, in general, just have a favorite horror trope? There's always people running up the stairs, why are you going up?
Yeah. And I'm not really vocal when I'm in the theater watching that. I just kind of suck my teeth. I'm a teeth sucker. I'm like that's me. But if I had to choose, it's always that moment when, like, the person walks down the stairs in the middle of the night to get water, milk, whatever it is.
You're like, turn on the light.
No, not even that, not even that. It's always dark. It's okay. It's always dark. I'm not. Watch. They open the fridge and they look through it. They get what they get, or they don't. But when they close the fridge, the killer's there. It's always the door closing moment. So I'm like, stop closing the door. Like, there's always somebody behind the door.
Yeah.
I've always noticed. It's always that jump scare that it annoys the hell out of me.
We just gotta get rid of doors.
Yeah, no doors in horror movies. No doors.
My favorite trope is that everybody's about to die and then they're like, let's fuck. I'm like, what the fuck? Sorry. You're like, this is my baby.
See me react when I saw your
This is my baby. Sorry. We're really in love with each other. It's so bad. They have to like wrangle us when we see each other. They're like, hi. You gotta keep going.
Favorite, because we all talk about how crazy it is why does everyone always trip?
Right?
Like look at the ground while you're running away from somebody. Like, why is it that you always trip and then crawl? Like, get up and keep running.
Yeah. I don't even know if I'd make it though.
Right.
I don't have that stamina to run.
There's certain things I just wouldn't do. Like, everything that always happens in a horror film happens somewhere in like a rural suburban area. Just stay in the city.
Yeah, right. Stay in the
Nothing
city.
crazy happens in the city.
I don't know. The subway can get pretty packed.
Yeah, the horror is the rats on the subway.
Generally, I love when people have sex in horror movies because it's like, how are you aroused? There's murder happening.
Like, fun.
I'm like, are you into the murder?
When they fall and then turn over on their back and start like scooching and like use your momentum, roll, get up and keep moving. But I don't know, a lot of times in those movies it's so contrived for us to have a movie. Because if they had common sense, a lot of times the movie would be over in like 5 or 10 minutes.
Do you have a favorite moment or even a more memorable moment from filming this movie?
So many. You know, I would honestly say like our last day when I was able to hear a speech from Dwayne Perkins when he was talking about the origination and curation of this idea, and he shed a tear and we all cried with him because we saw someone's dreams come to life and the actualization of a vision. That was an amazing day. All my days were great, but that was one that you realize like you're living in someone's manifested blessing, and that was just a gift for me.
It was really cold. So it's a scene we shot by the lake, and we shot that our first day of filming. And it was freezing outside. This is like early November. It was so cold. But other than that, everything was a blast. Like, we got the support of one another. We got Tim's story, making sure we straight, just the captain of our ship. And it was a holiday. It was a work of labor.
A memorable moment I have is watching Gracie do her fight scene, and I was just like, this bitch has got something in her. Like, she's so grounded but yet funny, and so much comedy can pop off of that because she is so grounded and so committed to the foolishness that she's doing. So yeah, that was really exciting to see other artists at work.
This is the first film I've filmed, and as a horror comedy, I was like, are we really gonna be running and screaming this much? And it's so much running and screaming. So that was something that I just had to like realize, like, oh yeah, we gonna keep doing these takes where we're running and screaming.
We're getting our exercise in.
Okay, this cardio is up.
I want to talk a little bit more about like some of the elements of this film, from the board game to the mask. I feel like a mask in a horror movie is like pretty important, right?
Yeah.
And so, can you tell me a little bit about like what it was like working opposite those items?
Yeah, it was terrifying. But shout out to our costume designer, and Dwayne worked directly with them to create the mask and create all of that. And so that was amazing to see that come to fruition.
There was a lot of different kinds of masks. The costume designer really gave a lot of different versions, and then we all voted on the one that you see in the film. But yeah, this film was just a collaboration with a lot of talented people, and I'm very happy that we all got to work together.
Board games in general can get very horrific depending on the family you play with, the friends you play with. I played Uno games that turned into fights. I played Monopoly games that turned into fights. I played spades for the first time in Atlanta, and I got scared because I was like, I don't think they want me here. That's how I felt. So, because I didn't know how to play, and they didn't have time for me. They didn't have time to teach me, so I bounced. Games can get a little, like I've seen fist fights happen during Madden. Like, games can get a little competitive, and I'm not competitive. I'm the least competitive person you're ever going to talk to, ever. And I don't have that bone in me. I think this movie does a really good job of I guess, taking sort of that attitude people have.
Too competitive.
But this one's different. There's stakes. You know what I mean? There's some peril involved. You gotta survive. You know, and I think that's a fun way into the story.
Consider subscribing if you like my videos, and if you want to talk more TV and movies with me outside of the comments section, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/kmaldo. If you like this one, you can check out more of my videos right over here. See ya!